The Uncaged Voice. Stories by writers in exile. On October 24th, 2023, the Writers in Exile group celebrated the official launch of their new anthology, The Uncaged Voice. Stories by writers in exile, published by Cormorant Books. The launch event took place at the Ben McNally Books store located at 108 Queen Street East, Toronto, in partnership with PEN Canada.
This is a really important initiative by our Writers in Exile community. The title of the book says it all. It's called The Uncaged Voice. These are people who left their homes where they were being repressed and made fearful for their lives in many cases, made often horrific journeys to safety in exile and have had to rebuild their lives. And these are their stories. And these are stories that will resonate with many Canadians. And for those who have no such experience, they will illuminate. And these are important stories for so many Canadians. The Uncaged Voice. One of the aspects of being in exile, especially when you come to a country whose language you don't speak very well, is that your voice is effectively silenced. That is one of the penalties of exile. So what this book represents is a journey to re-find your voice. That's very meaningful. That's because when you find your voice, you find yourself. To me personally, it's an opportunity to read these stories, to know our community better as a result of it, and to just see more, to learn more about the meaning of freedom of expression when you see what the lack of it does to people's lives, and you see the courage of people who assert their right to freedom of expression, pay the price, and then find their voice again to tell their stories. It's inspirational to me, and that's why I'm here.
With introductions by editor Heath Ross Leckie and Mary Jo Leddy, The Uncaged Voice tells often silenced stories, not only of censorship and persecution, but also of the strength and resilience of those unwavering in their fight for the freedom of expression.
My name is Heath Ross Leckie, and I have the privilege and honor of being an editor on the book, The Uncaged Voice. And this was a group of refugee writers from 15 different countries, 15 different writers. And I'm very proud of the scope of the countries that we're dealing with. And these have been oppressive countries where they've had to escape for what they wrote. So in every instance, the writer has suffered for what they wrote, suffered for the free speech and the oppression by the government. So I'm very pleased that we were able to publish this. And it's a beautiful book. I say beautiful, it's horrific in many cases. We asked a lot of them to go back into dark memories and share those dark memories with us in a second language. I mean, it's incredible that they had that courage and that strength. So I'm delighted that this is published, and it's going out to the public now. And, I thank them all. I'm really honored to know them.
Freedom, truth, and justice are taken for granted in some countries. In others, they are aspirational. And yet, in others, they are deemed justification for persecution, punishment, and silence. Through first-person essays and short stories, the contributors to The Uncaged Voice share their brutal yet heart-rending tales of fleeing from oppressive regimes on their homelands, where freedom of expression and the press is an ideal, not a reality, and where totalitarian forces attempt to subjugate, if not annihilate, all forms of dissension.
My name is Gaz M. I'm the chair of the PEN Canada's Writers in Exile, and I'm so happy to see our book published. This book is a lot to us. It means a lot to us because it brings the voice of refugees and the voice of writers in exile together. And we are speaking out, we are working to be a voice for the voiceless. So this book will give us a chance to be known throughout Canada.
From war correspondents reporting across dangerous no-go zones, to female journalists escaping conservative and patriarchal tyranny, to independent newspaper editors risking imprisonment or worse to criticize authoritarian states, these 15 writers in exile continue to write, sharing both the suppressed truths of their past and the hopes they have for the future in Canada, their chosen place of asylum.
My name is Arzu Yıldız from Turkey. I am a contributor to this book, one of the writers. I was a journalist from back home. Now I am doing Uber, lots of things. At the same time, I am continuing to publishing my novel and other books from back home, but not in Canada. This is just the beginning for me. And also this book means a lot for me because we all lost our memories, but we put them together in a book, and the memories lives with the, in a book. Also, my dear friend, our former co-chair, Adem M passed away, and very sadly from the COVID-19. This book should be dedicated to him because we miss him each day. And, when we lost somebody who was a journalist and living in exile, we lost also our puzzle pieces. When I meet writers and exile members, also in Canada, first I was, very busy to rebuild the life in Canada, but Erin Burhane just reaching me out, and then we just started the re-meeting again with the community. And also, when I meet lots of people who came to Canada, different countries with a different background, also the parents, I just realized that these people, all of them, they're kind, not just about the journalism and their career, their heart, humanity, and everything. And then we can understand each other when we watch each other also, our eyes, right? Sometimes we all, doesn't know the common language, English. We all know the language we use back home. But we don't need the language when we sit together. And then I just decided that people should know that these kind of people and their stories, what they missing, and the back home, because it is very hard to missing memories, where you born, families, job, and who you were before and everything. But when we find each other, it reminds us who we were, and our memories comes back. And it is not easy to pay a cost for your career, and these people deserve to, everything, and now that their story be heard.
I am Abdurrahman Matar, a Syrian writer and journalist and Canadian. I have been here in Canada in 2015. I am member of Ben Canada, Writer in Exile, and a vice president of the Syrian Writers Association. And I have 5 books, plus the 6th one is The Uncaged Voice. I'm so happy for this book. First, this book have a part of my soul, awards from my heart for my experience in the jail, in the transfer, as a refugee, as a fear from the killing. They follow me, the government and the Islamic radical movement, like ISIS. All of them, they want to kill us because we want freedom for our people, freedom to write what we need to write, what we want to write, what we want to say. This book is very important to present ourselves to the Canadian society, to know our story, to read our story, what we have, why we are here, what's our problem to leave our country. I am from Middle East, I am from Syria. It's beautiful country, it's my home. But I can't stay there. If I spent around 10 years in the jail. They arrested me 5 times for my opinion, for my writing. That's why I left my country in 2012, left my family, left my children, left my memory, everything. My daughter now, 10 years, I didn't see it here. This is my story. It's story of all the writers and journalists in exile around the world.
PEN Canada's Writers in Exile program was created to provide solidarity and support for writers, journalists, poets, editors, translators, essayists, and playwrights who have been forced to leave countries in which their freedom of expression was not protected. The program works with exiled writers to develop their professional working skills in a new community of writers through several activities. These include residencies, fellowships, school visits, as well as formal and informal support.
My name is Margot Kelly, and I am one of the senior mentors with PEN Canada's Writers in Exile group. And I'm here for the book launch of The Uncaged Voice, which is an anthology of stories by a number of our writers, and it's just a terribly proud moment. I'm so happy for them. You know, this is a dream come true, I think, for a lot of these writers. I mean, the dignity of having their writing put together in an anthology is an amazing thing. And it was born out of the pandemic because we used to meet once a month at Romero House and have a potluck dinner. We couldn't do that, so we started meeting online, and then Keith Leckie offered to do a writing or storytelling workshop, and that became very popular. People liked to bring their stories. We would provide feedback and workshop them, and then one of the writers, a Turkish journalist named Arzu Yildiz, suggested we put a book together. And so sure enough, we put about 4 or 5 stories together, and Keith, who is an award-winning screenwriter and author, had his agent shop the book around, and he got a book deal for these writers, which is phenomenal. It's a dream come true, and I'm so proud of these writers and our team of people who work to edit these pieces to get them to the point where the publisher accepted them. I can't begin to imagine what it must be like to have lived through the terror of repression as a journalist or a writer, and to suddenly then be set free from your cage and the stories that you can tell. You can take flight and tell so many people about your experiences, influence people, educate Canadians about it, shine a light on dictators who are repressing people, killing people, simply for freedom of expression. I'm a journalist. I was a reporter with CBC for 30 years, an editor first and then a reporter. And having a voice to shine a light on important stories is what keeps our world free and democratic. And there is so much at stake when regimes become repressive, and there's not enough attention to it. There's a lot of talk about trade, not as much talk about human rights, not as much talk about the jailing and killing of journalists and writers simply for telling the truth. And so it just means a lot to me. I'm extremely passionate about the Writers in Exile, and PEN Canada's lead in this, and also Romero House, which is a center for refugees that Mary Jo Leddy has been involved with, started decades ago. It's a really small but mighty team, and I feel a great passion for it.
I'm just filled with admiration for the writers who've shown such courage all the way through, which has through these difficult times, speaking up, being true to themselves, And you know, people say, oh, well, aren't they lucky to be able to come to Canada? But you know, it's really tough to become an exile, really tough. And I think I want to say to them that I recognize the courage that they've shown by being able to pick themselves up and come here and being ready to rebuild their lives here. And other Canadians just have to recognize this and help in that rebuilding and welcome them here. And I embrace them and think of them as citizens of this country. People sometimes think that PEN Canada, PEN International, is all about crises elsewhere, crises in freedom of expression elsewhere. But, you know, when I became president of PEN Canada a long time ago, before being international president, I said to everybody, you know, we have to do half our work on the situation in Canada. Freedom of expression is fragile everywhere. And even if, in a way, yes, we have more than in, God knows, Burma, we still have to wake up every morning, and when we get out of bed, we have to think to ourselves, am I going to say the things that need to be said, stand up for the things I need to stand up for, to ensure that freedom of expression works in Canada? It's something that each of us have to carry. So nobody should think that this is established in Toronto. PEN Canada carries out an incredibly important role internationally. It's one of the strongest in the 150-odd PEN centers in the world, but it also plays a very important role inside Canada, where this discussion about what do we need to do to ensure that freedom of expression means something and is alive and strong inside our country. I phone the people at PEN Canada. I think about it in the context of PEN Canada. I think about our freedom of expression beside the freedom of expression, which is so much more difficult in other countries. And I think, gosh, we have work to do here too.